Lagos, let's have a bit of conversation, shall we? On the glass ceiling every Wednesday at 4, we have conversations about all the different barriers that women face, all the different barriers that hold women back from all the things that they would like to be. And for the past few days, the world has been taking part of 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Gender-based violence is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, setback that women face. And today is day 10 of our 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. As we've been telling you for the past 10 days, it's a campaign that challenges all the different types of violence against women and girls. The campaign also tries to raise everybody's awareness so that we all see the role that we can play in ending gender-based violence, especially when it comes to creating a permissive environment for it. And today on the glass ceiling, we're looking at one specific area where we currently have violence against women being normalized, if not even condoned and encouraged. And that's in the entertainment sector, especially in comedy. That's what we're talking about today, rape culture in stand-up comedy and entertainment. We're going to take a look at the ways in which the images, the ideas that are communicated to us through entertainment may normalize or perpetuate or justify rape culture. And then we're also going to give an extra attention to comedy. It's a field of entertainment which is male-dominated and for which the audience is also majorly male. And they've been widely publicized cases where comedians have made jokes that appeared to justify or even encourage rape. We're going to look at how those messages are received and whether or not they contribute to the current situation in our society where rape is in many ways normalized. Now, as we look at the situation, we must also look at it in the context of free speech. I mean, it's a hot button issue right now, considering the debate over the hate speech law. Are comedy and satire covered by free speech, and to what extent? And here to discuss all of this with me is a panel of very opinionated, very knowledgeable guests. I have Ireti Bakare Yusuf, who is huge in the entertainment industry. She's an actor, she is a broadcaster, she's a journalist, she's all kinds of things. She's also on this station every Thursday at 6:30 hosting Listed Locution. Ireti, hi. Thank you so much for coming back on the show.
Hello, Sandra. I haven't added acting yet, but I am known to act privately, of course.
Oh, okay.
Of course, but thank you.
I will
You
come
are very
to you
kind.
For the videos of the acting in private. And I have as well a human rights activist on the show with me, Pamela Ade. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
She also has a
Sandra.
documentary out. Can I call you an actress?
No, I'm
No?
not an actress,
So just
no.
a documentary producer?
Filmmaker.
Filmmaker. See? Good. I brought in the real people for you. And on the phone, we're going to have Chi Girl join us. She's a stand-up comedian, also an actress right here in Nigeria. She's in Abuja at a conference, so she may not be able to join us, but we're going to keep trying until we get her on the phone. As usual, you who's listening at home or in your car or in the office, you are our most important guest. So throughout the show, call in, send us messages via WhatsApp, send us messages on Twitter and on Facebook. Tell us what you think. Have you heard jokes or seen images in your entertainment about rape? Have you heard jokes that make light of or support rape? How did you react? What did you think of it? Did you give it any thought at the time? Do you think it matters, these jokes? Do you think that jokes affect the way people see life? Do you think comedy can change behavior? Do you think it's just jokes? People should lighten up a beg and stop taking it seriously. Now, someone listening to this show right now is saying, now, wow, ordinary joke. Pamela, you don't mean anything now, or it's not as serious now. What do you have to say to convince that person, Pamela?
Well, one of the things that really helps to shape culture and I guess social pop culture, I should say, is entertainment, whether we like it or not. A lot of young people, listen to rappers, listen to actresses and actors, listen to, stand-up comedians, listen to all sorts of things via social media. And we cannot deny the influence that has in how their opinions are shaped and formed even if it's not conscious, these kinds of comedy and violence in music and in entertainment in general seeps into the subconscious mind. And so even when an individual is not really conscious about the learning process that's happening, it's still happening. These things seep into you, and before you know it, we have a society like the one we have here in Nigeria where people just joke about rape.
About rape, Irichi.
Yeah.
What do you have to say to the person who's saying, "Oh God, lighten up, ladies"?
Well, look, Pam has made some very good points, but here's what I'd like to remind them. So, first of all, I've got to say, Pamela and I are part of a group of feminists called the Nigerian Feminist Forum. Proudly so. We'll invite you to join us. So, go on the website and look for Nigeria Feminist Forum. We're a pretty strong group. And we fight for everybody, by the way. Now, here's the message I'd like to get out there. Just as Pamela said, but I'll take people back some years, because I think I'm a few years older than both of you. Go back to the days of rap music, when rap music was really violent. I mean, literally, it was about shooting, killing. It was about the denigration of women. It was about the denigration of society and that community. If you notice, they had to change it, because what was happening is people were continuing to sort of promote that and act it out, actually. They had to change the narrative in order to change their community. And that's why people must always remember that language is important, narrative is important, rhetoric is important, because whether you like it or not, it is a way, in fact, it's one of the most effective way of planting either positive or negative thoughts. Think about it. So you stand there and a comedian is saying, like Basket Mouth said, let me just tell you what Basket Mouth said, shall I? So, actually, it was an insult all around. So he was talking about, it was comparing dating white girls to dating African girls, not even black girls, African girls. So he said on the third date, a white girl would give it up for sex, right? On the eighth date with an African girl, of course, by this time you've taken them for Chinese, as he said, you've taken them to the cinema, you've bought perfume, something. On the eighth date, you attempt sex. You fail. On the ninth date, and I'm quoting him now, ninth date, rape, in capital letters. He didn't say it in small letters. It was in capital letters with 3 exclamation marks. Now, think of the amount, and this was done on his Facebook site. Albeit it was, 5 years ago? Think about the amount of young people who adore, who he inspires, who follow him, who looks up to him, lots of young comedians. Think about it. And he's just one. I mean, he did say, in fairness to him, he did say on the documentary, the Larry, what's his name, Block? I've forgotten his name now. There's a documentary on Netflix that's called The Dangerous World of Comedy, where he's interviewed, Bakasi's interviewed, and Helen Paul is interviewed, and I think one other person. They talk about, this is the episode 4, so I implore everybody to go and watch it. He does say on there, Basket Mouth does say on there that that joke that he posted was actually originally posted by Bakasi. He then just posted it on his Facebook. Well, clearly, more people were actually listening and looking up to Basket Mouth than they were to Bakasi, because that's when it went viral. Personally, I'm not on Facebook. I don't do Facebook. But of course, I was on holiday. I wasn't even in Nigeria when that story happened. I was on holiday. I was on holiday in Cape Town. And I promise you, South Africa was on fire. That's where I first heard it. So you can imagine. So such messaging is critical. It's critically dangerous. And that's why people must always remember language is important. And yes, you can say it's only a joke. He's got liberty. It's a free world, freedom of speech. Well, guess what? As I always say, and if I can tell this to my 16-year-old, I would like a grown man like Basket Mouth, Bakasi, Sheyi Law, and their ilk to remember. With freedom, with liberty, comes responsibility.
You know, I have to ask you, Pamela, how much influence does comedy have over social issues? And are there examples that you can think of how that influence works or has worked? I'm going to ask you as well, Iriti, but Pamela, you first.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, the influence is very huge. I mean, how do you mainstream something? How do you make something normalized, right? And the easiest way to do that is to put it in entertainment, to put it in movies, you know, in our films, to put it in our music, to put it in comedy.
Repetition.
Yes, to have people to have it reinforced in
Yeah.
all of these forms and ways over and over again. And again, like I said, it seeps into the subconscious. So one reason why a comedian like what's his name, Noah,
Trevor Noah.
Trevor Noah
Yeah.
is so popular and so influential is because he uses comedy. I mean, if you follow his show and you watch his show, you know, you'd see that he uses comedy to talk about social issues, political issues, you know. And yeah, we all tune in, we laugh, you know, it's funny.
But you're walking away with something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You are learning something.
Yeah.
You know, so comedy shouldn't just be used to highlight the problems of society, and even if it's used in that way, it can also be used to teach.
Yeah.
You understand? That is the power of entertainment, the power of comedy.
Yeah, but who are
You
we
know,
to dictate what entertainment does? Why can't entertainment just be entertainment?
Right. So I think the real issue here is, you know, when you joke about things like rape, for instance, there are people who are listening who have been victims of rape, and especially in Nigeria, where 1 in 4 women, I
Yes.
hope I'm correct.
1 in 4 girls.
One in 4 girls
Will
have-
experience.
Rape.
Will. Notice the word is will.
Not have.
Experience,
It's
not
will.
have.
Right.
Will before age 18.
Exactly. So when you have that kind of statistic, can you imagine the number of women who are walking around having to be re-traumatized when we hear those type of jokes and when we hear people laughing at that, you know? I mean, that must be so horrible as a survivor to even listen to, because it reinforces the idea that what you went through is your fault.
Yep.
Because I mean, this man has taken you out
Yeah.
for many dates. He has
Yes.
bought you
He's
shawarma.
bought you
he
this,
has bought
this
you
one,
ice cream.
that one.
He has taken
Shawarma
you
and
to
ice
the
cream.
cinema.
He has bought you a bag. You know, so why would you not have sex? Okay, and so if he has taken it upon himself to have sex to rape you, then it is your fault, right? So when we say comedy is just comedy, that's just not true.
Okay, let me come to you, Iriti. The same question I asked her as well. How much influence does comedy have over social issues? Do you have examples that you can share about how that influence works?
Yes, I'll tell you who I'd like to call out at this time. Helen Paul is a particular favorite of mine.
Okay.
I adore that woman, and she's a brilliant comedian, and in fact I'm almost addicted to her comedy because she uses her comedy to message,
I see.
right? So like Noah may have an international platform. I do pray, and those of us who are fans of Helen Paul do pray that she will get to that point, because she has a handle on Instagram and she has a character called Alaja Don Jazzy. And Elijah John Jazzy is constantly, every skit is used to educate. Either it's educating young people about how to pick a husband, educating young people about, even in-laws, to say, look, don't get involved with when the husband and wife are falling out, don't try to get them. Whether it's educating you about staying in school, whether it's educating against rape, education against violence, it's constant education. But guess what? I laugh so much. And the amount of people that follow her, I mean, she's even used it to educate us about our responsibility to Nigeria. Now, that's what you call talent. Because here's what talent does. When you have real talent, you do not need to pick on the vulnerables of society.
Absolutely.
Especially in this day and age, there's so much material out there. In Nigeria, let alone globally, there's so much material out there for you to make comedy out of, and we will all be rolling in laughter. Why then do you have to pick on the people who are already in pain? That's my issue with this nonsense about she being a comedy. No, actually, if it was just comedic, then nobody would have been damaged by it.
You know, I've heard a lot of Nigerian women complain that Nigerian comedians sometimes express negativity towards women. Do you agree, Pamela? And in what ways have you observed this negativity?
Let's just call it spade a spade. Misogynists.
Absolutely. I mean, he already, nails what's the word? Hits
On the head.
Nail on the head. That's exactly what it is. It's misogyny. It's the patriarchy. And it almost seems, I mean, when you listen to Nigerian comedians, it almost seems as if they're not putting women down, then they don't have jokes. It's either you're body shaming women, or you're saying that they should be raped, or it's always about women. I mean, okay, let's take for instance, the recent apology by Basketmouth, where he refers to his wife and children, female, I mean his daughters, and the other women in his life. He calls them his prized possessions. I mean,
just swallow that for a second and see how hard it is. Like literally, you almost get, what do they call that thing? Belu belu. Like,
but there's somebody,
literally.
but there's somebody listening to us right now, and the person's asking, and Ireti, this is for you. But are they not his prized possession? What's so wrong with calling his wife and his daughters his prized possession?
Because a possession, it's an item, not a human being. I mean, if he doesn't know the difference between that, I actually put that part of his sentence down to a lack of vocabulary, which he has clearly expressed by making such jokes. Because when you refer to a human being as possession, not only does it say a lot about your mindset, it says a lot about your vocabulary. And it says a lot about your thinking. It says a lot about the broadness of your education. And I'm not talking about the ABCD kind of education. I'm talking about a global awareness.
Just even the education of the mind.
Of the mind, right? Possession. I'm sure if you asked his wife, I'm sure she'll probably not like to be referred to as a possession. But hey, that's their marriage, not mine. But I do agree with Pamela that there is no such thing as a possession when it comes to a human being. Right? Be it women, my husband, my partner, even my son is not my possession. My son is a gift. Is a gift that flourishes my life. So if he had said, these are the women, well, I'm probably going to write. If he had asked me, I would have written that for him. And look, we'd all be loving him. Now, if he had said, the women in my life who flourish my life, who make me a better person, through whom I learn much more and I become so much more better. Phew. Yeah.
So you agree with Pamela that the comedy in Nigeria is very negative towards women?
Absolutely.
Oh, it's beyond negative. Look, I get fed up and let me tell you what happens to me when I walk into an event. And I have never willingly gone to see a Nigerian comedian. Never. Right? So it's only ever happened to me by accident where I've gone to an event and it's probably a comedian that's the MC, or they've hired him to do a bit of whatever it is they do, whatever you call it. Anyway, I start palpitating. And I promise you, this is the God's honest truth. I start palpitating. I can literally feel my chest tightening up. I don't suffer from asthma. I don't suffer from high blood pressure. But I feel it. Why? Because I am expecting them to have a go at me, at my sisters in the audience, at somebody's wife, some woman. It's going to be a woman if it's not her weave on. It's going to be her this. Look.
Her weight.
Oh, wait. Let me tell you something. I went to one recently at Iko Hotel. I'm trying to remember. And it was, but I remember who was on stage. It was Shay Law that was on stage. And he said, I almost died. And I don't even know this person. He said, toke makinwa, we bleach to keep a man. My mouth was agape. And so were all the other women like, what did he just say? He said, then I should write down for a book. He said, he did inside the book. Well, guess what? That's her story to tell. It's not your material, actually.
But
it's her material.
But Ireti, if people are listening and they're saying, if we say that this particular subject matter is out of bounds as far as comedy is concerned, imagine that every single person who is at the center of any other subject says this particular subject matter is out of the question as far as comedy is concerned, comedians will have nothing to joke about.
Well, that's a talentless comedian. I mean, Helen Paul's doing very well.
Absolutely.
Helen Paul's doing very well. Look, Alibaba makes me... At the same event, let me just tell you, at the same event that I was at, Alibaba got on stage. Oh my gosh, were we laughing today? Because he was telling us about... And that's the thing. Matured, talented and intellectual comedians will draw from their own life experience. And he was telling us a story about him and Dede and RMD and what they got up to. And we were all laughing so much because guess what? Comedy is about delivery, right? But also every one of us have material in our lives that actually could be comedic. So if you draw back on your own personal experience, you're not going to be upsetting anybody.
What if your experience is about, I don't know, the women?
What, about raping women?
Well,
that's what I was going to ask.
Well,
I don't understand. Anyway,
Pamela,
that's
I
what
want to
it
hear
is.
your thoughts.
no, I mean,
I mean, like, what if...
when you listen to some of the really popular and well-renowned comedians like Alibaba, for instance. I started watching Alibaba when I was very young. I used to go to his comedy shows all the time, and I don't remember a time when Alibaba
You felt
joked
offended.
about rape.
That's right.
I don't remember that time.
There's no need to offend.
And he was so funny. I really thought he was like absolutely funny, but he didn't come off as offensive.
No.
And circling back to that documentary you talked
Yeah,
about.
I think it's Larry Charles' Dangerous World of Comedy on Netflix. I know that's what it's called.
On Netflix, yes. He also mentioned something about recycling jokes.
That's right.
That
yes.
he recycles a lot of jokes, and what he does is he takes jokes from outside Nigeria or
Who's he in
wherever.
this case? Basket
takes jokes from outside of Nigeria and then turns it, like he sort of localizes the content to make it more
relatable.
Yes. So I mean that should tell you that that's someone who is not putting in any
There's not a lot
real
of work going into that.
mental work.
Okay, well,
right?
we
Hold on.
well, I need to introduce our
Okay.
third guest. She's finally joined us on the phone. Chigel, hi, good evening.
Hi, hello everyone.
Hello, Choma.
Hi.
Okay, so I have Pamela Adir in the studio, and I also have Ireti Bakari Yusuf in the studio with us, and we've been talking about rape culture in entertainment and stand-up comedy, and it's great that we have a comedian in the house. And I started by saying that some people who are listening to the show right now will be like, "Now, wow, ordinary joke. You don't mean anything now. It's not that serious." And you're a comedian, so I'm curious what you have to say to that.
Well, I'm of the opinion that I think when you become a public figure, as is the code word on Instagram these days, you don't want to say celebrity, you're a public figure. I think you have to be responsible for the kind of messages that you send out. In that same vein, I heard people were making there was a lot of noise about Basket and a joke he made or something like that. I never personally listened to it or heard it, but I don't necessarily feel like it came from a malicious place or it came from a place about making light something as serious as rape. I don't know. I haven't heard it to form my own opinion about how he said or what I thought he meant.
Would you like me to repeat it, Choma? I remember it. Let me tell you how it is. It's still jarring 5 years on. I remember it so clearly. If you go on my Instagram handle, it is written there. I captured it.
Yeah, but I want her to finish a thought that she had. Ireti, hold on. Choma, go ahead.
What I'm saying is we all have to be responsible. We are responsible for our actions, regardless, and we are responsible for, and we also have to be ready for whatever backlash comes from these actions. Now, I also I am also of the opinion that nobody is beyond redemption, or nobody. If someone is apologetic about something they've done and wants to say sorry for it, I think we should accept as well, because we're all human beings. Now, this situation with rape it's a serious thing, and it's been sort of like in the forefront of most of the other news in for a very long time. As a woman, as a comedian, nobody ever wants that kind of a thing to be something to be made light of. It's not. There's nothing light about molestation. There's nothing light about somebody taking your right away from you and forcefully doing something to you. There's nothing light about it. So it's not something to be played with.
Okay.
It's not something to be. I don't think it's for entertainment. There's nothing about rape that says entertaining. There's nothing about it as a topic or a side joke or a side whatever that's entertaining. But then again, we are where we are, and things are as they are. And I guess people allow, maybe, I don't know what the word is to use, allow some things to be made fun of.
Okay.
I feel like that one should not be one of them.
I have to ask you another question. I asked the ladies as well. How much
Yeah.
influence does comedy have over social issues? Are there examples of how that influence
I don't.
works?
I feel like everybody has a responsibility to spread the word when it comes to social issues and keep them on the forefront, or stress the importance of these things. If we can talk about poverty, and we can talk about politics and peace during politics and not killing each other and things like that. Yeah, so there is a way. I mean, I think it's a message being passed. It's just the message is just through funny. So yes, I can make you laugh, but I want you to also think. That's the objective. You laugh, but you also think about it and say, it's cruel, but it might be said in a funny way. But you still should be able to sort of like think about what is being said to you and realize that there's a message behind the comedy. It's not an act. There's actually something tangible that you're supposed to get from it, which is what we try to do.
And then before you joined us, I also asked them what they thought about Nigerian comedians sometimes expressing negativity towards women. I've heard a lot of complaints from a lot of Nigerian women. Do you agree with that? And I don't know, in what ways have you observed that negativity?
I watch my colleagues do it all the time, right? I watch my colleagues say things that sometimes stick me a little deep, like, I don't know about that one. But that one was a little, But then again, I watch comedians abroad who are married with children still do the same things on stage. And audience is laughing. So I'm like, what's good for the goose, I guess, is good for the gander. So why should it be different here? Now, we're in a society that you see, the thing about it is a lot of times we laugh at these things and then we complain about it. So somebody's like, which one are you doing? Are you complaining or are you laughing? They talk about women in all kinds of ways. It's just like saying in all these songs that they sing, and they call it the B word, the H word, this word, and you're supposed to like hear yourself. Oh, that's my B. Oh, no, this H is a this and that and that, and they're rapping, and you're singing it along. Singing. Full on echo. And they have made us look like a single pants outside. But it is the culture, you know what I mean? Which is why I think it boils down to the individual, and you're telling yourself, my brand is not going to be about this, that, and the other. But we know some things you might not be selling and making the money like you want to because you're not following the bandwagon. So are you willing to make that sacrifice of not follow the bandwagon and not make as much money?
Good question. Pamela, what do you have to say to that?
Well, Chigel is someone that I
We love
admire
her, right?
greatly, and I've been listening to her jokes for a while now, and I laugh at a lot of skits and recordings. I remember those days when it started via BlackBerry.
The BlackBerry voice.
Yes, people send these things, and and I really laugh about I laughed about them, but they were not in any way damaging to women or to any vulnerable group. And one of the things that I really admired about your jokes, Jigo, is that you really talked about yourself. You understand, and you made fun of yourself, which was a great connection, right?
Life experience.
Exactly. And at the same time, I really understand your solidarity with your colleagues and all of that, But I have to say that, just because people outside Nigeria are telling jokes about women that are distasteful doesn't necessarily mean that we have to also copy it.
Yeah.
We
I
can,
agree.
yeah, absolutely. We have, as you said, we have that responsibility to kind of develop the society that we want to have. And so I don't agree that it is up to the individual. I think that if you have a platform that you're able to amplify your voice through, that you should use it. And if
Positive.
yeah, you should use it to pass messages, to educate. Okay. So I mean, those are my thoughts about what you just
Iriti?
said.
Choma, you know what I'd like to ask you?
Yes, ma'am.
Everybody loves your work. I only got to know about your work a few years ago, but and it was during the days of BlackBerry, and I remember actually hearing you on Smooth FM for the first time, and I almost crashed my car because you were making me laugh so much.
Don't say that. Don't say that. That's going to affect my market.
Do you see? This is my point, Choma. This is my point. You have not even tried, and we're all cracking up here. Now, that's what I mean about talent. You draw from your life experiences. You have so many, like a great retort for when somebody speaks without even thinking about it. Do you understand? And that is the difference here. And it's very true. You're right about in the abroad. There are those who do it in the abroad. But let me tell you what happened. You and I both know, because you're a woman who speaks what? 3, 4, 5, 6, 200 languages, Choma?
200.
Or is it 201?
Just five. You know, different accents, but language is five.
Yeah, and you've got so many different voices, and you have so many different characters that you delight as well. Now, here's what would happen abroad. If anybody, let's use Kevin Hart. The minute he said that nonsense that he said, he had to apologize, otherwise he was going to be paying the price. Do you understand? And it's that consequence. And let me tell you what happens. And it doesn't just happen with rape for me. It also happens with the way Nigerian comedians Nigerian comedians are actually disrespected, in my opinion. And it's all to do with this patriarchal society that we live in. Okay? If you could have, by the time you have what? 4 male comedians, Lagos, comedians are the women, comedians are the men, right? So they get it right. So you've got 4 comedians before you have 10 before you have 1 comedian. Come on. How does that work? So that's part of that picture, and we mustn't get away. We mustn't be shy to actually address it. Whether it's deliberate, whether it's conditioning, the fact is it exists, right? And it's that same patriarchal mind that actually gives somebody the guts, if you like, the effrontery to make a joke about rape. Look, let me give you another example. Okay, Bakassi made a joke. Busala was in the crowd, Busala Dakolo, and he said, make anybody know something. My pigeon is clearly, quite destructive in itself. But he said something about, make anybody know come to me, it's been through, I be passed to, I go crest you. She was in that audience, apparently. Can you imagine? So Basket Mouth didn't just make a joke about white girls, black girls. He also then went on. Okay, and I've got to bring this home for people so they know what it feels like to be a survivor. He also then went on to make a joke about grandmothers wanting to get raped by armed robbers because the husband had died. She had been widowed a long time. Now, guess what? None of us knew that Taiwo Ajayi was going to come out with her story this year. Right? Taiwo Ajayi, Mama T, as I call her, came out recently, last week, 2 weeks ago, about that she had been raped by armed robbers. The same boys who worked for her in her school, who she had sacked, then broke into her house and raped her. So do you see why this is not so much about redemption? It's about a total lack of thought.
Regard.
Yes.
And also, Ireti, I mean, we are already in a society that doesn't really provide support for survivors of sexual violence and women in general. So coming from that disadvantaged point
Exactly.
to having to be re-traumatized
Every
single
time.
time is distressing. I mean, there's just no excuse for it.
I mean, Nigeria is already at war with women anyway, so,
Okay, but I need to ask, and this is a question that I would like Choma to answer for me, but she'll answer after the break. Why are there so many jokes from male Nigerian comedians about rape? If you're on Twitter, you saw that viral video of some young Instagram comedian who did some funny thing. I don't really remember the content of it, but it went viral, and people had a lot of thoughts to share about that particular video as well. So it begs the question, why are there so many jokes from male Nigerian comedians about rape? Again, the conversation is rape culture in stand-up comedy and entertainment. Is there a role that our comedy, that our entertainment can play as far as dismantling rape culture or enabling rape culture? That's what we're trying to get to the
I don't even
bottom
understand why
of.
there's I'm like, whenever I hear the word rape culture, I'm like, why is there even a rape culture? Like, it's almost like, why is there even a classification of rape culture? Like, it's a horrible concept to even try to put in it beside the word culture.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like because rape takes everything from you, rape strips you.
Yeah,
I don't
culture
think
is
it adds
something,
anything
it's because
to you.
it's been
Yeah, it's just
normalized.
because it's colloquial now, so everybody kind of sort of says it.
Yeah. So let's come
and-
back to this after the
Okay.
break. Just stay on the line,
Okay.
and you as well. Don't go away because I'll take your calls after this break.
This is the Glass Ceiling on Hard Facts.
I'm sorry, I have a cold.
Today on the Glass Ceiling, we're having conversations about our entertainment industry, stand-up comedy especially. We're taking a look at the ways that the images, the ideas that are communicated to us through entertainment may normalize, may perpetuate, may justify rape culture. Today is day 10 of our 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, and rape is a form of violence against women. We've got Choma Mere, aka Chi Girl, on the phone with us. course, she's just been named one of the EU's influencers for this 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. We also have a human rights advocate on the show, Pamela Adie, who is a filmmaker, as well as Ireti Bakari Yusuf, who is a broadcast journalist, who is an actor within the privacy of her bedroom.
I like that. Nobody's allowed to come in.
And who is a producer, who is a lot of great things. And we're all having this conversation on the show. You are my most important guest. I'm talking about you who's in your car, you who is in the house or in the office. And I need to find out what you think of the conversation we are having. Have you heard jokes or seen images in entertainment that make light of or support rape? How did you react? What did you think? Did you give it any thought at the time? Do you even think it matters that people are making jokes about rape? Do you think that jokes affect the way people see life? Do you think comedy can change behavior? Do you think it's just jokes and oh God, you people should just lighten up already? Chico, before the break, I said I wanted to find out why so many jokes from Nigerian male comedians are about rape. Do you know?
I don't know why. I don't necessarily know. I don't necessarily know what fuels that or puts that ideas in people's heads. Now, the people that are in this industry of mine that I respect totally, and there are a few of them. First of all, I know one person that I hold in very high regard is Ali Baba, and I've never heard him do that. Like, I've never had him go that way. Now, I don't understand. Like, there as a comedian, there are some things I personally, and I might be wrong, I personally feel like there's some things I don't consider talent. Like, I feel like if you have to stand up in front of people and yab your audience a lot, I think that you have no content. So hence you now turn it to being abusive or vindictive or now insulting people in the name of comedy. I don't feel like that's a show of comedic talent. That's just me. Maybe because these things are not aligned with my brand and the kind of comedian that I am. It's not the kind of thing I would ever do. I mean, when I say that, I mean I've been in a situation where someone came at me, you know, from the audience, and then when I got on stage, I went back at them.
Good.
Because
Good
they
for
came
you,
at me.
girl.
One, because this was a young comedian, because they look for the easy things to go to. You go to somebody about weight, or you talk about, these kind of things. And the person went at me about making reference to my size. Now I'm looking at this little child who is about 16, 17, and an up-and-coming comedian. I was like, I don't want to crush your dreams totally, but listen. And I went at him in a nice joking way about, mind yourself, you're still young, I can flog you, that kind of thing. But I don't necessarily know. I mean, back to your question, I didn't want to necessarily go off on a tangent. But I'm saying, with regards to your question, I don't necessarily know if there is anything in particular that fuels that. I don't think it comes. I don't necessarily know if anybody writes a set for a comedy show and there's a set about rape, like if there's a topic about rape. Now, I think some of these things come to mind and they just sort of
in the
stay
moment,
off the cuff or in the moment.
I wonder what Pamela thinks.
But then it should never. What I'm saying is it should never be in the moment. That is not something that should even be part of your moment.
Yeah.
Like, it shouldn't be part of your moment. It shouldn't be part of your set. It shouldn't be something we should talk about. It shouldn't be something we should make light of. The only time maybe rape should be a topic is at a conference about how to stop it. Not somebody using it to make anybody else laugh. But then you watch these shows and sometimes the women are laughing, which makes you wonder, well, okay, what planet am I on?
Pamela, why are the women laughing at rape jokes?
Sandra, I don't know why women are laughing at rape jokes. But, earlier on in the show, I mentioned the statistics of rape amongst young girls, right? And I mentioned that 1 in every 4 girls, which is about 20% or 25%, will be raped by the time they are 18. Okay, so rape is a very common occurrence in Nigeria.
Absolutely.
And that is also because we don't really have any social supports for survivors of rape, right? So we blame women. We ask ourselves, what were you wearing? Why were you there? Why did you go there? Blah blah blah
Why
blah.
did
blah.
you collect the shawarma and the ice
Why
cream?
did you Okay, so why? But so when you have that kind of what do you call it, high occurrence in a society, it only shows you that we are an extremely violent people. A few days ago on Twitter, there was this video that was trending about a man who was harassing a PHCN female official. You know, apparently they went to cut his light or whatever was happening there, and he was trying to prevent them from doing it. And this woman was holding onto a wire that he actually wanted, and she refused to let go.
I saw that video.
And then the next thing, you know what this guy did? He dropped his pants down and said, "I'm going to rape her. I will rape her."
Yeah,
This
on
is
camera. We
On
all saw his
camera.
penis on camera.
And this is the thing.
Yes, and the moment he did that, she just let go of
The wire.
Now, what that video told me was that
Where's the, and that's my first question. I'm sorry to cut you off, but where's that man now? That tells you
That's the
problem.
point.
that is part
Where-
of
where
the
is he?
that's part of the problem. Men are not held accountable for these kinds of behaviors. So you know, you end up I think, okay, what I was saying initially was what this video taught me was that Nigerian men understand that rape is not about sex. It's about punishment. It's about power.
It's about power over somebody else.
It's about punishment and power.
It's not just here. It's everywhere.
yeah.
Everywhere in the world. That's what rape is about.
Yeah, no, but I'm talking about it in the
Yeah,
context of
in the
Nigerian.
society,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So you know, it is something that is very common. So why do people laugh? People, especially men, because
Why do they
men are
make
usually
jokes of it, and why do they laugh?
Okay, why do they make jokes? Because it's actually common. A lot of men have actually raped someone at one point or the other. That is just the actual truth.
Ireti, do you agree with this?
And that's the thing, you know. Firstly, let me just add to Pamela's stats. Warif did some stats they collected over some period, and they actually came up with one of the most shocking statistics ever. 10,000 rapes happen every day in Nigeria.
10,000.
Don't crash your car. I will repeat it again. 10,000 rapes every day in Nigeria. Just like I said, just breathe that in and see what that means. So the chances are, and I do this every time when I'm out speaking, when I'm a speaker or in a forum or whatever, and I've done this, and I say to the audience, if there is anybody in this room who has never been affected by sexual violence, either directly or indirectly, please raise your hand. I've addressed rooms of 500, 1,000 and more. Till today, I'm yet to find anybody that raises their hands. That tells you how problematic, no, what a pandemic, forget epidemic, what a pandemic situation we have in this country. Now, let's go back to why people laugh. First and foremost, like Pamela said, the chances are, and it's a very, very, very real chance, that every other male in Nigeria at some point or other in their life has committed one form of sexual harassment or violence, either knowingly or unknowingly, at least once in their life. And that's because of the conditioning and the normalization of rape that has happened over decades.
Yes.
Now, why do women laugh? There's something we do in Nigeria. It's a way by which we mask our discomfort. Have you found yourself in watching a film or being at a theater? I go to the theater quite a bit, being in the theater. And people are laughing. You're like, okay, I don't understand. Why am I the only one not laughing? And then they laugh again, and I'm thinking, well, what is funny? Often because we laugh our discomfort away. So if you think of those, the reason I gave you those statistics is to think, right, so one of the comedians is playing to, these people play to Eka Hotel. Eka Hotel has, something like 2,000 to 5,000 capacity when they play in that great big room. Now, imagine all the women that's in there. Going by these statistics, 99.9% of the women in there would have experienced one form of sexual violence or the other, right? 99% of the men in that room would have committed one point of sexual violence or the other, knowingly or unknowingly. So there's a comedian on stage, and he's saying yada 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 yada. All the men laugh now because we don't do that. Don't be there. Not be like that. This one. Like when Bakasi said, who rape you? Your husband. How your husband feel rape you? Everybody burst laughing because most of the people there were husbands, right? The women go along with the laughter because of their discomfort, because they've already been there, they've experienced it. Now, what do you then do? You look around you and you're like, everybody's laughing. In order for me to disconnect my experience from what he's saying on stage, I'm just going to laugh along.
All right, Chigirl, I have to ask this. Assuming that comedy actually has an influence, right? You have people, comedians and members of the public who will say, free speech is free speech. All of you on this panel are advocates of free speech. Pamela Ireti, Chigirl. So what do you say to those who say comedians are exercising their free speech rights and any attempt to police them is authoritarian?
Now, once again, I'm a strong believer in choice. And you using your choice. You choose to do something or you do not, because you see the bad or good in what it is you're doing. Now, I mean, people have children, they have wives, they have sisters. Now, if you feel that it is okay to say these kind of things, knowing fully well it could have happened to someone that you know, or someone you know that knows indirectly or directly, if you choose, once again, to say, this is fine for me to say, then, like you said, who are we to stop it? Because it's only social policing, because there's nothing else that can happen. What am I going to, even if I'm at a show and I try to stand up with a placard in the middle of a show, I can be taken out of the show. Okay, he's making his joke. I can't stop him. And there's nothing I can do about it. I just have to say, hoping that whatever messages I'm preaching reach other people, and the droplets of what I'm trying to say gets to other people, that make them rethink and say, I shouldn't be doing this. But at the end of the day, we cannot stop them, as we all know. Yes, we all have a right. So like I'm using my right of my free speech to say this is wrong. So you who feels it is okay to make a joke out of something as serious and as damaging as this, there's really nothing we can do. It's just that it gets to the place where those of us that do not want it to happen have to be more than those that will. Because then our voices are louder and our voices are more. So then we now hush the other voices that are contrary to the good thing. And I've always thought about this, and I said to myself, I said, one of the reasons I believe that one of the reasons why women are considered in such low regard is it's a deep intellectual and psychological flaw, because you are born into a place that already sees you as a second-class citizen. And that thing will follow you until you get to your life and your marriage and blah, 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 blah. And even when you marry, your husband can still be among those that see you as a second-class citizen. Because you're born into a place where you're not equal to a man. You cannot be equal to a man. You are never equal to a man. You are supposed to be this. You're supposed to be that. That's what they're telling you what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So we as women are raising sons who have these beliefs in how women are and how to treat women. So then is the problem with us as women? Because we are raising the children who are going to be men.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
And we're not
so
breaking the cycle.
Does the cycle continue? So now, maybe because I've been treated a certain way all my life, and in my mind, psychologically, I have been made to believe that the bad behavior I am getting is what I deserve to get. So if I raise a son, he's supposed to treat a woman that way, because that is the way I was treated.
Of course, you pass on what you know, right?
Yeah, you pass on what you know, and we do better because we know better. So if we don't know better, we won't do better.
Yeah,
It brings me to watching, when I watch the movie Color Purple, and that's one of the things that stuck with me. The movie Color Purple with Whoopi Goldberg and Oprah Winfrey. I remember the scene where when when Whoopi's character was talking to her husband about I think her son, about Oprah's husband's character, and he said beat her. Because Whoopi's character, all she knew in that whole film, she was beaten and treated like trash the whole movie through.
That's right.
And in her mind, the best thing for that other woman was to be beaten. To beat her into subjection.
Unfortunately, we are out of time, ladies.
Oh, we didn't even get to talk
I
Nollywood,
know.
Sandra.
Literally.
What we can do, hold on, ladies.
gotta do
really
better.
calm
We
down.
gotta do better.
Calm
We gotta do
down.
better.
Calm down.
We know better.
Say that
We
in
know better
French.
now. We know
What,
better.
what we can do? Wait, hold on. We're out of time completely. Like my producers are giving me sign to like go. So we're out of
Wait,
time.
Joe. Wait.
What we
Hold
can
on.
do is maybe if I can get the three women, it's probably going to be impossible because everybody has impossible schedules. But if we can get the three women back into the studio, we may be able to have a part 2 of this conversation because it's
part of our 16 days, I think.
huge.
Yes,
part of our
yes,
16
I
days.
think so. That would be
it's
nice.
a huge
Because
conversation.
we haven't even talked films.
Yes, and we need to talk films as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Chi Girl, thank you so
Honey,
much for
this
taking
thing has many
time.
branches.
It does.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad I could join the conversation.
Sure, man, bring back some kelechi.
From Abuja.
From my sister. My work is doing somehow. I don't have time for kelechi.
Okay.
I'm working.
All right,
I'm
Chi
so
Girl.
proud of you.
Thanks for your time,
Thank
Chi
you,
Girl.
Thanks.
Okay, and Pamela, thank you so much for coming to the studio as well. Riti Bakari Yusuf, thank you so much. I cannot wait to listen to who you're going to be talking to tomorrow on Lisa Legoshan. Who's that? Who are you talking to tomorrow?
I'm speaking to, believe it or not, Larry Shashere, who's actually, I think she's cousin to Shashere that did the Shukwa Shashere, the documentary about Lagos.
Yes.
And she's actually, they even have their own sort of because they have their own coat of arms in Lagos. So it's really exciting.
Okay.
She has so much history. So I can't
Tomorrow,
wait.
6:30, tune in and listen to all the things you can learn from Shashere.
Sandra is yet to be a listed Lagosian. I'm going to grab
I'm
her
growing.
one of
I'm
these
growing.
days.
I'm growing. I'm still 1-year-old.
these
Remember, I'm here for
days.
like 5 years, and I'll be
Yeah.
listening to Goshen. Coming up, let's talk about borders and customs and cars. You're listening to Glass Ceiling on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
99.3 Nigeria Info.